Well, welcome everyone. It's great to see a packed house. We've been seeing quite a few packed houses over the last several board meetings. We're now going to go ahead and start our regularly scheduled May 22nd, 2018 regularly scheduled board meeting of the Richland 2 School Board of Trustees. Before I jump in, I would like to go ahead and take a point of personal privilege and on behalf of the board as well to recognize our Councilman Chip Jackson, prior school board chair. Thank you. And his lovely bride, Pat. We welcome you here tonight. Okay, we have just returned from executive session where we have been discussing student appeals, student admission requests into the district's adult ed program, readmission requests into the district for the 2018-19 school year, a contractual matter regarding a contract extension, employment releases, in-district transfers. We had an addendum to our executive session to include a student matter regarding transportation, as well as a personnel matter update. And before we jump into our next item on the agenda, I did want to take a second to just talk about the Santa Fe, Texas shooting. This is our 22nd school shooting of this year. It is just a really tough time in our nation as we see these things happen, and it's extremely frustrating. And as a board, we are faced with so many issues, and school safety is one of those issues that we take extremely seriously, that we're perpetually working on. And as you will see tonight, we'll be talking about some of what that may mean as far as it relates to our facilities. At this time, I would like to take a moment of silence to honor those who perished in that shooting, please. Thank you so much. All right, we'll move on and jump right into our agenda. We'll start with item 4.1, which is our inspirational moment, the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Agostini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tonight we have celebrities, Lauren and Michael Bank, providing our inspirational moment. Their love, faith, and perseverance have been reported all over South Carolina newspapers, made international news, and also an appearance in People magazine. Mr. and Mrs. Bank.
All right, it's red. I'm live. All right, my name is Lauren Bank. This is my husband, Mike Bank. Some may know me as Polka Dot Queen. I recently got married to the love of my life, Mike Bank. Our wedding story went viral, which you'll find out later why. We have probably been through more in 3 years than most couples have in 50. Their life has thrown us curveballs. But with our love, faith, and perseverance, we have been able to keep our heads held high, enjoy life, and continue moving forward no matter what gets thrown at us. Mike and I's love story started at a time that most wouldn't even try to start a relationship. On our first date, I had to tell Mike that in 3 weeks, I would have a double mastectomy, as I was going through my first battle of breast cancer. We decided it was better to be together and fight together than alone. We focused on enjoying each other and life. We went on bucket list adventures, hot air ballooning, petting baby tigers, you know, those fun things, and amazing trips, like going to Cancun for all-inclusive resort. Best week of my life. Through all the good and bad, our love blossomed and grows daily. Our faith and love was tested again in August 2017 when I was told I had stage 4 breast cancer that metastasized to my bones, liver, and lungs. This was 9 months ago. Yesterday, actually. We had only been engaged 2 months. And we already set a wedding date of March 24th, 2018. But we weren't going to let cancer stop us. Even though the doctors suggested moving up our wedding date, we kept our faith high and we always knew that there was hope. And the doctors told us in December that it was very critical that we move up our wedding date. And Mike and I both looked at each other and said whether I was bald or had hair, no hair, he was still going to marry me no matter what, but it was going to be March 24th. And I said, alrighty then, we're going to keep going. Thankfully, we found a clinical trial in February, and as of now, I can report the future is looking bright. If Mike and I stopped because things got hard, there is no way we would be where we are today, still loving life and each other. Through our perseverance, both individually and as a couple, we have grown strong and refused to let life keep us down. The reason our wedding story went viral, we got married on Saturday, March 24th, 2018. I was able to walk down the aisle. I was not on oxygen. I was not on a wheelchair. And I was also able to walk down the aisle and marry my husband. And I was able to dance the night away, even though doctors told us in September and December and January and probably February that we should move up our date. But Mike and I decided to start a clinical trial 50 days before we got married. Lost my hair a month before we got married. But we continued, and thankfully my clinical trial doctor worked with us. And all I can say is that you can't stop just because someone tells you that this is what it's going to be, because I'm still walking today.
All right, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. A truly inspirational moment. Thank you. We wish you well in your marriage. Move on to our next item, which is item 5.1, the approval of the current agenda. May I get a motion?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion
Dr. Caution Parker.
that we approve the agenda as is.
Motion's been made by Dr. Caution Parker. May I get a second? Second by Ms. Mackey. If no discussion, we'll vote. Bless you. Motion passes 7-0. And I think we were just so caught up in that inspirational moment that we neglected to have our Spring Valley ROTC come in and bring the colors. So very moving. And so at this time, we're going to go ahead. They've come all the way here, so we will now have them present the colors. Please, if we could stand for that.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Shedd.
Can you sing the Star Spangled Banner?
Absolutely not.
Colors turn. Ho! Colors. Ho!
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Colors. Marked on. March. Colors. Colors turn. March. Forward. March.
Thank you. I think that's the first time we've said the pledge twice at a board meeting. Appreciate that. Patriotic night tonight. All right, next up on our agenda there are special recognitions. We have quite a bit tonight. At this time, I will turn that over to Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, we will have Ms. Libby Ruth come before us this evening to present our special recognitions. Ms. Ruth?
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Mr. Chairman, I think since Memorial Day is Monday, we should be especially patriotic. So saying it twice is very appropriate. Chairman Plank and honorable board members, thank you for providing time in your meetings to honor our state and national first place winners. Richland 2 employees, students, parents, and community members, thank you for joining us to help us honor the award winners. In a meeting last week, this week actually, well, it was just yesterday, in fact. Woo! Y'all see why we skipped over that? In a meeting this week, Dr. Davis talked about a premier finish to our school year. So when things are busy and things kind of start getting really kind of crazy, reminded us that we want to end this year strong. And as you can see in this room, I'm about to share a lot of examples of how our students and staff are finishing the 2017-2018 year with a bang. So let's begin with a group from Richland Northeast High School who achieved worldwide recognition as the #1 Model United Nations team, with Principal Dr. Sabrina Suber and Model UN advisors Samantha Rainwater and Marquez Artawan. Please come forward. And I'm going to call up our international stars. We have Kevin Chow, William Kaysen. Come on up when I call your name, don't be shy. Hannah Cross, Caleb Daniels, Wade Fletcher. Up front, yes, front and center. Sorry, I'm not being very explicit in my details. I totally apologize. Andrea Kempson, Savannah King, Scott Moore. I believe Max Peterson had something to come up along with Audrey Royal. Haley Turner, Adia Villari, and Annalisa Walters. So for the 29th year, I said 29, most of them consecutively, the Richland Northeast Model United Nations team has won the first place award of distinction at the National High School Model UN Conference in New York City. And in addition, the team won first place for research and preparation. The competition is the largest in the world, with students traveling from hundreds of schools across the globe. Their preparation began last fall when they were assigned to the country Jordan, which is represented on several Model UN committees. To prepare, the students researched the foreign policy of Jordan, as well as innovative solutions to the country's pressing international issues. At the conference, they participated on committees and debated the importance of the issues, and eventually passed resolutions to implement solutions to these world issues. I can't really express in words how impressive that is, and that we are extremely proud of you, and we really know and welcome back the Richland Northeast Model UN team year after year. So congratulations, thanks for doing us proud. want to move to the middle and take pictures for them. Unless, left or right. And then, yep, perfect. And then, yep. How's that look good time? That was pretty good.
That's it.
Move out of the way.
All right, 1, 2. All right.
Hold on, you got paparazzi out there. Let's congratulate them. Okay, now I'm going to ask Dr. Brenda Mack Foxworth to come up front. And Dr. Mack, just so you know ahead of time, you just come on up here and you stay up here for a while, okay? Because you're going to be up here for the next several recognitions. I'll let you know when you can take a break. There. I was like, she was just back there. I saw her. Okay, first, we hope, is Malika Lightborn able to make it?
She was not. She's at a dance concert.
Okay, so Malika is at a dance concert, but we're going to let Dr. Mack stand in for her, and we're going to talk to, is her English teacher, Miss Fatima Buccelli here? Spanish, sorry, that would be Spanish, yes. Evidently, I can't speak English or Spanish. Well, let me tell you about Malika, because she really is a bright, bright star. She won a gold medal on the 2018 National Spanish exam. I obviously wouldn't win a gold medal on English or Spanish, but that's okay. Out of more than 150,000 students who took the exam across the United States, she scored in the 95th percentile or higher, earning her a coveted gold medal, which isn't very surprising. You may have heard that Malika advanced to the semifinalist round of the selection process for the United States Presidential Scholars Award, which is one of the nation's highest honors for high school students. Considering she is the only senior in Richland 2 and surrounding public school districts in the Midlands to reach this level, we know it is no small feat to be selected as a semifinalist. We congratulate her on her high school achievements and wish her well in her very bright future. Let's congratulate her. Now joining Dr. Mack and our board member, Ms. Mackey, up front, we're going to have Kiana Benson. Kaylin Cooper could not be here. And Mrs. Pat Jackson. These ladies represent the Ridgeview High School DECA Club, which is through local chapters at high schools and colleges. DECA prepares leaders and entrepreneurs for careers in business. Year after year, the Ridgeview DECA chapter enjoys success at the statewide competition. This year, Kiana and Kaylin won first place for business law and ethics team decision making. To get to the first place, the team had to take a test and then are given only a few minutes to come up with a role play on how they would handle a business law and ethics decision. They worked hard and fast and came up with the highest score. At the state event, Mrs. Jackson, Ridgeview's longtime DECA advisor, was named a lifetime member by the State DECA Advisory Board and received the Exemplary Service Award. She has served as the DECA advisor since the program's inception in 1997 and has served on the South Carolina DECA Board of Directors for several years. So it's no surprise that she will be greatly missed here in Richland 2 and across the state when she retires at the end of the school year. In her 21 years as advisor, she has prepared her students for their future, guiding them along a pathway to success in their education, in their business future, and their life. So congratulations to both of you, and thank you for your service, Ms. Jackson. Yep, stay right there. Another group of career-driven students from Ridgeview are members of the Ridgeview HOSA Club. If they will come forward as I call their names, we have Ayana Chapman, Miranda Hurt, Faith Thompson, and advisor Mary Harmon. Here comes our others. So HOSA is an organization very similar to DECA, but it is for future healthcare professionals. These 3 young ladies teamed up to win first place in creative problem solving. To win this rather involved competition, each team member up here took a test, and then their scores were averaged. If they scored high enough, which they obviously did, they went on to tackle the challenge, and they were asked to come up with a solution or a way to increase exercise among teens. Well, based on my child, that would have been really hard. Their solution beat out ideas from 20 other teams, and so that earned them the title and able to go on to compete in the international competition next month in Dallas. So we wish them well and congratulate them and appreciate their work in healthcare. Is that everybody? Oh, we still have more. Did y'all get them? It's so tight in here today, I don't have anywhere to stand out of the cameras. Okay, Dr. Mack, not quite done yet. Will Victoria Jackson please come forward, along with student activities director Wendy Wimmer, who happens to be Victoria's mom. Victoria is a student body president at Ridgeview, and she is also a Richland 2 volunteer and student ambassador extraordinaire. When we need a student to fill in, to participate in an event to represent Richland 2, Victoria never says no. The South Carolina Association of Student Councils inducted Victoria into the Terry McCoy Student Council Hall of Fame. And under her leadership as student body president, the Ridgeview Student Council earned a Gold Honor Council Award. Both awards are prestigious designations for the best student leaders and for the most successful student councils in the state. We also want to thank Wendy for her service to student councils at Ridgeview, as she will be moving on and away from Richland too, but we appreciate her service in helping build our future leaders. So congratulations and thank you to both. Wendy, I guess you could have taken your phone up there and taken a selfie. Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, Dr. Mack, you can take a short break, but don't go far unless you're a quick runner like the people coming up soon. Board members, I want you to know that being recognized at a board meeting is like a hot selling ticket, because we've had people who have been invited who call us or email Dr. Davis and say, I can't make it. Can we please reschedule? So the Model UN team and Justin Castro. Is Justin with us? Come on up, Justin. Justin is on the student council at Richland Northeast High School, and like Victoria, he was inducted into the Terry McCoy Student Council Hall of Fame by the South Carolina Association of Student Councils. We've mentioned before that Hall of Fame is named for Mr. McCoy, who was a student activities director at Richland Northeast for many years and led the state organization for 23 years. Students are selected for this Hall of Fame for having certain qualities, including teamwork, humility, courage, good listening skills, working and living with a smile on his or her face. We know that Mr. McCoy is extremely proud of you, Justin, and we are too. Congratulations. When you talk about award-winning student councils in our district, our state, and our nation, you must have Westwood High School at the top of your list. In its short history, Westwood has been a 5-time Student Council of the Year and 4-time National Gold Council of Excellence winner. With Student Council Advisor and Student Activities Director Janet Frick and Principal Dr. Cheryl Guy, please come forward first. And we're going to bring up with them Student Body President Haley Zalawa. Did I get it? All right. Vice President Discussion Davis could not be here. He was planning to come, but something came up. But they are here to represent the Student Council for receiving the 2018 National Gold Council of Excellence and South Carolina Gold Council Honor Council Award. Westwood Student Council works hard to build school spirit, promote leadership, and work tirelessly on community service to improve the Blythewood community. Ariana Wilson, is Ariana with us? She won, won first place for her hard work on Westwood's Bring Back the Axe School Spirit campaign. I think if I was bringing back an axe, that would encourage some spirit. Ave Parker and Jewel Dinkins won for the second time for the Tireless Teacher Award. And this is so precious, I have to tell you about this. So they select a teacher who has helped student council and roll a tire down to the teacher's room to thank them. Their award came from the Southern Association of Student Councils. And Alyssa Mall, who I believe couldn't join us tonight, was inducted into the Terry McCoy Hall of Fame. So Richland, too, has lots of inductees this year. We also want to take a moment to thank and recognize Advisor Janet Frick, who has worked in the district for many years and led countless student councils at Richland Northeast and then Westwood. And she and I actually have a Gilbert High School connection. She has a distinguished career, and we wish her best in retirement, and we will miss you. Congratulations and thank you. Okay, Dr. Mack, come on back up here, because for the second time in the spring semester, or the second semester of the 2017-2018 school year, Richland 2 has the state champion, and that is the Ridgeview girls track team. So, would Athletic Director Brian Rosefeld, Coach Warren Ewer, and our team members who are here who competed at the state track meet, Aaliyah Brooks, Michaela Brown, Jonida Elliscar, Linnea Martin, or Linnea, I think I mispronounced that. Linnea, oh, okay, good. Aaliyah Morgan, Elizabeth Whitmore, and Trinity Yates. These young ladies helped bring back the girls' track state championship since 20 years. Last time Ridgeview won it was 20 years. In addition to winning the state championship, Aaliyah Morgan, Linnea, Aaliyah Brooks, Janida, and Cameron won the 4x400 relay team event, which Ridgeview runners have accomplished that the last 4 out of 5 years. These track stars blazed to the top with a total of 64.5 points to become the 2018 4A state champs. And to add to their celebration, Coach Ewer was named the South Carolina Track and Cross Country Coaches Association 4A Coach of the Year. Congratulations, ladies. We're going to get y'all's photo real quick. All right. I have the track team members step forward and we'll put the spear that way. How's that look, Ty?
That's good.
Better. Dr. Mack, I need you to stay up front one more time. We have senior Tyler Mitchell. Was Tyler able to make it? Yay! And Tyler's track coach, Kendrick Presley. Coach Presley here. Come on up front, Coach. So we want to congratulate Tyler because he walked away with the state title as well. A couple of Saturdays ago at Spring Valley, he won the boys 200-meter dash in the state meet with a time of 21.80 seconds. I don't think I can walk from here to there that fast. And his first place finish helped boost the Ridgeview team, the entire team, to have a top 10 finish at the state meet. So congratulations, Tyler. Next, we have some more track stars. Shania Bellamy from Richland Northeast. She is. And Coach Smith. Is Coach Smith here? Well, perfect. So Shania won the 4A state title in the girls' 400-meter hurdles with a time of, this is amazing, 1 minute, 4 seconds, 1 minute, 4 seconds, almost 1 minute, 5 seconds. Is that right? I could knock down a turtle in 1 minute. That is amazing. My son runs track, and I watch the people running the hurdles, and I just don't even understand how they can do that. So congratulations on your state title. One more. Robert Braswell from Blythewood High School. Another state title winner. Is Robert here? He's not here? Don't see him. Robert won the 5A state title in high jump with a jump of 6 feet 10 inches. So we congratulate him. His interim principal, Bobby Cunningham, is going to come forward and get his certificate. Mr. Cunningham, would you like your photograph taken? Okay, finishing up with Westwood High School, who had several first place winners. Would Principal Cheryl Guy come forward, along with, I think we have Assistant Coach Nate Gant, Coach Corey Head, and Athletic Director Jason Powell. And we will bring up first Kayla Racine, who won first place in the discus throw. Then we have a group of 9 people who won 4A 4x100 and 4x400 relays. Montre Miller, Torin Goings, and Christian Horn actually competed in both events. Jalen Brigman, DeMonte Romy, and Trini Faggett were part of the 4x100 relay. Come on up if you hear your name. Sorry. So we have, raise your hand when I call you. Montre Miller, Torin Goings, Kristen Horn, and they were both, these 3 men participated in both relays. Then Jalen Brigman, DeMonte Romy, and Trini Faggett, who was part of the 4x100, and then Malik Donald, Paul McCants, and Rashay Rashawn Floyd were part of the 4x400. The 4x100 team won their relay in 41 seconds. The 4x400 relay won first place with a time of 3 minutes, 18 seconds, more than 3 minutes in front of the second place finisher. And now, since we have the Westwood High School athletic department so well represented, we also want to congratulate Athletic Director Jason Powell and all our athletes for winning the Award of Excellence in what truly matters: sportsmanship, integrity, and ethics from the South Carolina High School League. And this is another award that Westwood has captured multiple times in its short history, and we are very proud of all of y'all. We're going to grab your photo. Excuse me.
No, you okay? You're fine.
All right, let's see if we can hold the panel up. Oh, thanks. All right. Mr. Powell,
Can you three come over here?
Let it out.
I told board members, this is a hot ticket to be here.
Oh.
And it's hot too. Okay, let's congratulate. That is all.
Thank you, Ms. Roof. Appreciate that. At this time, I'm going to let those who would like to exit go ahead and do that before we move on to the remainder of our agenda. And we appreciate and congratulate all our award recipients. Mr. Jackson, we appreciate you being here. Thank you. I know. All right, so much for it being a hot ticket, right? We'll go ahead and move on now with item 7.1, which is the approval of the consent agenda. May I get a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Agostini.
I'd like to move that we approve the consent agenda for the regular board meeting today, May 22nd, 2018.
Move for approval by Ms. Agostini. May I get a second? Second by Dr. Elkins Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Motion passes 6 with 1 no vote. Motion passes. Thank you. Next up is item 8.1, our legislative update. Ms. Mackey.
Mr. Chair, in light of the unique circumstances of our budget at this time, I just wanted to read to you a message from Senator Hugh Leatherman, who is the chair of the Finance Committee for the Senate, and Representative Brian White, who is the chair for Ways and Means, which are both the finance committees, which reads as follows. We have jointly determined that we should postpone further conference committee meetings on House Bill 4950 H 4950, the General Appropriations Bill, for the time being. With so many complex issues outstanding, we will not have enough time to get a conference report ready for the May 23rd and May 24th dates provided for in the sine die resolution. The differences that the conferee face are numerous and they're complex. These will take time to analyze them all in depth and to reach a consensus on how to move forward and best serve our people. To meet a Thursday deadline to finish so that we have a report, could be prepared, we will require shortcuts in research or consideration. We don't think shortcuts on issues as important as those contained in provisos and funding items is wise. We both feel it is important that we spend the time to ensure we get the right result rather than to rush just to get a result quickly. Our goal now is to have a budget conference report presented to both houses before the next dates authorized in the sine die resolution, which is June 27th. We and our staff will continue to work diligently to ensure that we have a budget in place in time for the start of the new fiscal year on July 1st that will serve our state well. I apologize, I lost my glasses, so I'm struggling. And what that means is that they just simply said they didn't have enough time to get a budget conference report together, which is, 3 people from the House, 3 people from the Senate to get together. They vote on budget items, and then they decide which side prevails. So they'll go in tomorrow for a perfunctory session, which is just to adjourn, do a little bit of business, and then just to convene, do a little bit of business, and then to adjourn. So nothing is effectively going to happen until June 27th. And that affects school budget. That affects schools' budgets because of our fiscal year on which we operate. But it is what it is. The South Carolina State School Board Association has expressed their displeasure with this, and they've written strongly worded letters, but it is what it is at this point. I'd be happy to entertain questions, or Harry, Dr. Miley, if you'd like to come forward, you're welcome to do so, but I think that's pretty
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Any questions or comments? Mr. Manning.
I think, Ms. Mackey, you said it when you said do nothing. They shortened the legislative season, and they whiffed again on their own deadline to get the budget done, which affects all state agencies, affects schools, affects our children, and knowing, we have budgets we have to do. They don't let us pass our deadline. So, they're choosing because of primary season not to make tough decisions, that they have to go in front of the voters before the primaries, point, period. And I think it's a shame. But as Ms. Mackey said, it is what it is.
Thank you, Ms. Manning. Any other questions? Ms. Shad?
We have a primary election taking place on June 12th.
June 12th.
And then we have the general election November something.
6th.
November 6th. Thank you. Please vote.
Thank you, Ms. Shad. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Appreciate your update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next up, we have our first public participation, item 9.1. We have a couple people signed up. I'm going to put that in alphabetical order. I'm going to go ahead and read what the guidelines are now for the 2 participants and anyone who would like to address the board after that. The meeting is recorded and will be available for viewing on YouTube. You'll have 3 minutes to present, and just for your knowledge, we as a board will not be responding at the conclusion of your comments. Please refrain from using specific references to school personnel or students. And then when you come up, the microphone is off, just whoever comes up first, make sure that you start with that. And then I'm going to have you state your name and your address for the record. So we'll start with Ms. Burnell. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. First off, I would like to say thank you for hearing me this evening. My name is Shantae Burnell. My address is 151 Manzanita Lane, Columbia, South Carolina, 29223. I just wanted to bring attention to the dual language program at Polo Road Elementary School. It is my personal opinion that there are some factors that could be addressed to help improve the program. I understand that it is still in its infancy stage. I just want to give you a little background. I have a first grader who is in the program. I took her from Hammond School and put her, or she was accepted into the program because I wanted her to have the opportunity to learn a foreign language fluently. And so what I'm going to provide for you tonight is just some research that I conducted based from the Center of Applied Linguistics, San Jose State University, and the Dual Language Education of New Mexico. And it just states that there are 7 major dimensions of dual language programs, which include assessment and accountability, curriculum, instruction, staff quality and professional development, program structure, family and community support, and resources. And I believe that since the program is still in its infancy stage, it is in need of improvement in all of these areas. I also want to say that for assessment and accountability, these tools are essential in determining the efficiency of the program itself, and it's used to assess the student's progress, and it's essential in shaping and monitoring the program. I personally am not aware of anything that is currently in place. This is the 3rd year that the program has been at the school. I'm not aware of what's in place right now to keep up with that assessment and accountability. My other concern is with the staff selection or staff quality and professional development. For a more successful program, the teacher should possess a higher level of knowledge relating to the subject matter. And according to the Center of Linguistics, it's imperative that these teachers are knowledgeable of bilingual theory, second language development, and appropriate language strategies. When they do not have a background in bilingual theory or bilingual education, they risk making poor choices in program structure, curriculum, and instructional strategy, which can lead to low student performance and the perception that bilingual education does not work. My overall assessment of the program, I've been happy with it, but I do believe that there are things that could be put in place if they had access to more resources.
Thank you, Ms. Burnell. Appreciate your dedication and interest in this subject matter, and we appreciate your comments. Next up is Ms. Spratt. And again, if you would state your full name and address for the record. Thank you.
Yes, Wendy Spratt, 121 Miles Road. I'm here because I've been asked to make some remarks on behalf of some parents. While it's difficult to capture the concerns for the entire group, my goal is to provide you with remarks that represent views for some of the first grade DLI English parents. As parents with students in the DLI program, we have been asked to make a 6-year commitment for our children to participate from K through 5th grade. While there's been noted progress in this past year in the DLI program, there's still considerable amount of room for advancement that needs to occur before the DLI program will earn similar accolades and high admission demand as other magnets. Last year, there were several families that removed their first grade students, enrolling them in other magnet programs, including ACE, CFI, and Center for Knowledge. Their reasons for moving was frustration and concerns expressed with the DLI program. My intent today is to relay these concerns to strengthen the DLI program and ensure we build strong student retention, whereby helping the success of the program. As you are likely aware, unlike other magnets, students may only enter the DLI program in K or first grade. At the end of this school year, Polar Road is losing the head DLI staff contact. As of early this May, we learned that a dual lead position had been budgeted, which this is a great step forward, and informed this decision has already been filled. Some parents have raised concerns about the swiftness in the position in which the position has been filled. For the upcoming school year, we have nearly 50% vacancy for the DLI teachers, which includes 3 of the 4 Spanish-speaking teachers in the program. This level of staff turnover must be addressed to ensure the longevity and success of the DLI program. We are requesting district support to work with Polar Road leadership to attract and hire the most qualified candidates for the DLI program and implement necessary training to support the DLI teaching philosophy. We are requesting the district's support and oversight to ensure that funding is allocated in the next school year for appropriate training for the entire DLI teaching team. We ask the school and district to explore additional resources for the teaching team, such as student teachers or enhanced volunteer programs to ensure future success of the DLI program. And lastly, we are requesting commitment, thorough assessment, and investment from the district to improve the DLI program to achieve similar success levels as other Richland 2 magnets. Morale from DLI parents is waning, and parents are seeking more accountability to ensure the proper measures are taken to maintain the longevity and quality of the DLI program, and it's consistent with the teaching philosophy. Again, this year, several parents are considering removing their children from the DLI program. As parents with children enrolled in the program, we all understand and support the value of the program. We want it to thrive and be one of the best in the state, and we want to support the leadership and teachers of Polo Road.
Thank you, Ms. Pratt. Appreciate your comments, and again, appreciate your commitment and dedication to our district as well. Thank you. No one else has signed up. However, if you'd like to address the board, please do so at this time. Okay, seeing no one, we'll move on to item 10, voting on executive session items. Item 10.1, we did not have any per policy recommendations before us, so we'll move on to item 10.2, which would be student appeals. May I get a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Agostini.
I move for student number 1, Blythewood Academy. Student number 2, Blythewood Academy with Loradac. Student number 3, deny the appeal. Student number 4 and student number 5, Blythewood Academy.
Okay, motion's been made by Ms. Agostini. May I get a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Mackey. Before we vote, we'll just confirm the motion on the screen. Also gives me a chance to re-sign in that I got kicked off. What's that?
Ms. Mackey. Ms. Mackey.
Ms. Agostini, if you'd confirm the motion. Thank you, Ms. Agostini. So properly motioned by Ms. Agostini, seconded by Ms. Mackey. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Next up is item 10.3, student admission request into the district's adult ed program. May I get a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move...
Let me hold on one second. There we are. Okay, 7-0. I just want to make sure I saw that right. All right, go ahead, Ms. Agostini.
I'd like to move that we approve student number 1's admission request into the district's adult education program.
Motion's been made by Ms. Agostini to admit student number 1 into the adult ed program. May I get a second? Second by Dr. Elkins Johnson. Any discussion? With no discussion, we'll vote. Did you say hand vote, Mr. Chairman? Hand vote, please. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, next up, we're going to move on to 10.4, which is our readmission request into the district for the summer and fall of the 2018-19 school year. May I get a motion? Ms. Agostini? Motion's been made by Ms. Agostini. As stated, may I get a second? Second by Dr. Elkins Johnson. Any discussion? With no discussion, we'll vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Item 10.5, approval contractual matter regarding the contract extension. May I get a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
I
Manning.
move that the board approve a motion to extend the Energy Conservation Services contract with Johnson Controls for 1 additional year, fiscal year 18-19. Financial Services and Procurement Services believe it is in the best interest of the district to extend this contract at this time. This contract started with the FY 13-14 school year and has the option to extend for 1-year periods up to the FY 17-18 school year based on board approval.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. I'm going to repeat that in abbreviated form. To approve the energy management contract extension as presented, his motion has been made by Mr. Manning. May I get a second? Second by Ms. Agostini. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey.
just to clarify the motion that I know has been made succinctly, but just to let people know from the information we were provided, the extension is to allow some more mechanisms to be in place, but it's not an arbitrary 1-year extension to arbitrarily extend anyone's contract just because, but from what we were presented, it was to provide some additional mechanisms before an RFP takes place, which could be up to a year, could be a few months, we don't know.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Dr. Elkins Johnson.
Just one comment. I will not be supporting this because of the timing and the late notice, and I think I've shared that before, that I think it's the beneficial of the school board and our constituents that we receive matters of this magnitude in a timely manner. So you will see that I will not be supporting it for that reason.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins Johnson. Any further discussion?
Mr.
Shad.
I share the concern of Ms. Elkins. Although I know the consequence if this extension does not go through, so I'll be abstaining from this vote.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take our vote. Motion passes 4 yeas, 1 no, and 1 abstention. Thank you very much.
You said 4 yeas?
5 yeas, sorry. 5 yeas. 5 yeas, 1 nay, and 1 abstention. Thank you. No, I'm glad you caught that. I didn't see my own vote up there. Let's see. Next up is item 11.1, old business action requested. Dr. Davis.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we brought before you last board meeting a recommendation to policy GCC/GDC, and we're asking for an approval for the proposed recommendations to GCC/GDC, employee personnel leaves and absences. Should there be any additional questions, Ms. Williams is here to answer any questions concerning this policy.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. So we have the approval presented. We discussed it in business at our last meeting. May I get a motion?
I actually have a question.
Ms. Agostini.
All right, and my apologies to everyone. I just noticed this today, reading it for the last time under the paid sick leave.
Ms. Agostini, let me interrupt you. I
You
think
want a motion
because
first
it's an
before
action item, we need to go ahead and take motion first. Motion, and then we need a second, and then we can have the discussion after.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve policy, that we approve the proposed recommendations to GCC, GDC, employee personal leaves. Wow, tongue twister. I'm sorry. Personal leaves and absences.
So motion's been made by Mr. Manning to approve the proposed recommendations to GCC, GDC, employee personal leaves and absence. May I get a second? Second by Ms. Mackey. Is there any discussion? Ms. Agostini.
Thank you. Under the paid sick leave portion, there seem to be, the days that are designated, there seem to be gaps, first of all, from 180 to 195, and then going to your second 200 to 210, you're missing 5 days in between. And then also from the 210 to the 215, in terms of how they accrue leave. That was a concern. Is there a purpose for that?
That is common practice among the districts based on the number of days that employees work. This has been a common practice.
So if we have an employee that, and I know this is really, getting pretty particular, but so if somebody's employed at 196 days, where do they fall in this?
We don't have 196-day employees.
Or you're talking about a school year?
Correct. We don't have 196-day employees.
Okay, but I guess my question, I'm reading this policy as an employee of this district, not just school teachers, but...
Yes, ma'am. We don't have any employees that work 196 days.
Just as a point of information,
Okay.
I think I can help Ms. Agostini.
All right.
Dr. Davis.
All employees are contracted for a particular amount of days. So you're either 180 to 195 day employee, you're either a 200 or 210 employee, or you're a 215 to 235
Excellent.
or beyond.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then my other question would be, would we want to put work days, or, so that, to clarification, later in this policy, there's a specificity of work days versus just days. When we get into business days, school days,
We don't want to put that in because some people are hired at different times, so they accrue by the month based on the dates that they are hired.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Agostini, does that answer your questions? Okay. All right, so we have the motion. Any other further discussion regarding this policy? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. Ms. Agostini. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Next up is item 11.2, approval, second reading of the general fund budget for the 2018-19 school year. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Again, last board meeting we brought before you the budget, the general fund budget for the 2018-2019 school year. This is the second reading and asking for you to adopt the general fund budget for the 2018-2019 school year. If there are any questions regarding the budget, Dr. Miley stands ready to answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. May I get a motion to adopt the general fund budget for the 2018-19 school year?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we adopt the general fund budget for 2018-19 school year as proposed.
Motion is made by Mr. Manning to adopt the general fund budget for the 18-19 school year. May I get a second?
I'll second it, but I'll have a question as well during.
Second by Ms. Mackey. Any discussion? Ms. Mackey.
Just could you walk us through how this works? In that the state legislature has not provided and has not voted on an appropriations bill yet. Can you walk the general public through what this means for the budget that we've just approved as it pertains to what the appropriations bill will provide for us, which will likely be, after, which could be very late into June and will impact
I'll do
our
my
decision.
best.
Thank you.
Subject to change.
Yes, thank
The state revenues that are built into the budget as you approved and are considering tonight are based on the negotiations between the House and Senate and the Senate version. What we were hoping, as you read earlier, that we would have a conference committee between the House and Senate versions, which were quite different. If you remember, the House version included 0 base student cost increase and a 2% raise, including the step. The Senate version was $60 base student cost and 1%. Those were big differences, primarily to our favor, although we certainly encouraged the teacher pay raise. The House provided no funding for it. So we were hoping that that conference committee would meet, resolve their differences, and we would have a budget that was presented to the governor prior to your second reading. As you know, they've punted that down to the end of June. So what we're basing our budget on is the Senate version. What we'll have to do is, if that changes substantially, for instance, if they decided to go with the House version of $0, we would come back and have to amend our budget prior to July 1, probably have to amend the budget based on any information we get from the House, from the legislature, bring it to you, perhaps even in an emergency, special call board meeting before July 1.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Dr. Elkins-Johnson.
Dr. Miley, looking at the budget, I noticed that you only provided 10.4 mil cap. Are
Yes,
you
ma'am.
going to provide something with a 0 or 4% like you normally do, or?
We had done that earlier in earlier discussions.
Right.
This was the version we brought to you last for first reading. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
So after first reading, we did not do any more variations after first reading.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins-Johnson. Any other questions for Dr. Miley? Dr. Miley, if you would, I know this budget presented before us is a 3-point, right now projected based on the best numbers that you have, 3.91% increase over last year's budget.
Yes,
Can you just tell us, for the public, what the percent increase is average over the last 4 or 5 years?
They've been about 5.5. Last year's was just below 5%. This is the smallest percentage increase in our budget in the last 5 years.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Motion passes 6-1. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Miley, for
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is item 12, new business action requested. We'll start with 12.1, which is the approval governance committee recommendation. Dr. Davis. Ms. Sherman, did you call me?
Yeah, I need to make a correction. She was asking me a question, and I was saying, yeah, we're okay. I didn't realize, no. Yes, I am voting. No, please correct that. I am voting for the budget. My apologies.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins. Thank you, Dr. Elkins-Johnson. So let the record reflect. Let the record reflect. That is a nice sigh of relief, I will say. So Let the record reflect 11.2 approval of the second reading general fund budget for 2018-19 school year reflects a 7-0 motion passes. Thank you. Appreciate that. Item number 12, we'll move on here with new business action requested with 12.1 approval governance committee recommendation. Dr. Davis.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, last board meeting you asked us to consider or accept the recommendation from our governance committee to administration to develop a disciplinary action plan in accordance with the priorities set forth by the Board of Trustees. And so we're asking for your approval to pass that baton to district administration to set those the action plan in accordance.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. May I get a motion?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Manning.
I'm just going to motion the night away.
Go ahead.
To approve the recommendation, I make a motion that we approve the recommendation by the governance committee to allow administration to develop a disciplinary action plan in accordance with the priorities set forth by the Board of Trustees.
Motion's been made by Mr. Manning to approve the recommendation of the governance committee to allow the administration to develop the disciplinary action plan in accordance with the priorities set forth by the Board of Trustees. May I get a second? Second by Dr. Caution Parker. Any discussion?
I just have a comment.
Ms. Mackey.
Mr. Chair, just if I understand correctly, and correct me for those on that committee who don't, this is to reflect, I think, the board's priorities with regard to the priorities, as there are questions or whatever that arise from the communities, wanting to make sure that those are taken into consideration and to be sure that the priorities with regard to discipline are in the best interest of the students of the district.
Yes, Ms. Mackey. Is there any other questions? Because I can address. Let me just address that. Let me, for the benefit of the public, and we'll talk. Here are an example of some of the discipline priorities from the board, and the idea behind this is to take it from governance and move it over to the districts with our priorities in mind. Reduce time students are out, or expedite the hearing process. Increase consistency of outcomes and reasons for expulsions. Adhere to the discipline matrix, and clear, timely, and professional communication with parents and students and so forth. So this is an effort to make the discipline process and the procedures behind due process much more efficient. Any other questions or comments from the board, Mr. Manning and Mr. Shedd?
I also wanted to, I didn't want to leave out, and again, as the governance committee chair, just so everybody understands the process, I asked the board to send the governance committee their priorities. We sat down and looked at them. I incorporated all the priorities that were sent to me into this list. The governance committee talked about it and approve the priorities. And again, these are priorities and guidelines, so the district will really look at the process to determine what the best is. And the goal was to take it out of governance committee, give it to administration, and then have the whole board have the opportunity to be part of the discussion so that it wasn't the smaller group, because that seemed to be the consensus of the board, that we wanted to work on it as a whole body, not as an individual group. But one of the other key things that I want to mention is that not only is this to improve the process at the end of the day, as we've grown as a district, I think sometimes you have to look and see where we are, but also to balance, and I think this is important, balance the discipline process with measures that will protect staff in the learning environment. And I want to make sure that not only are we fair to our students, but we also have to be fair to our staff and to the other students. And I think we've seen a lot in the state newspaper about our teacher crisis, and that seems to be a resounding theme with one of the reasons why our teachers struggle. And so I think it's for both ends of that process.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Mr. Shedd.
I appreciate what has been said, but I appreciate the fact that we are having this discussion now, because as Mr. Manning said, we don't want it to only come from the governance committee, and I appreciate him asking for our individual priorities and then compiling this. And since I'm not on the governing committee, I'm on another committee, if someone can explain to me what it means when we say as a priority that the board wants to reduce its involvement to help increase the efficiency and consistency of outcomes. And when I ask that, I want to know what that means in terms of possibly passing on our discretion to the administration in terms of due process that a student may have in the interest of efficiency and consistency, as this priority says.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. Mr. Manning, as the chair of the Governance Committee, would you like to respond?
Yes, sir. First off, I want the board to realize that while these are priorities, the district's going to bring the whole process back to us. So as a board, the Governance Committee is not going to approve the final process. The whole board has the opportunity to weigh in. And if we don't like something that comes back, then we have the opportunity to discuss that as a group and determine what that is at the end of the day. So, so that's what I think the end result is important to understand, so that we know the whole board gets the opportunity to weigh in on that end result and what it ends up being. But I think the idea there is one of the reasons that we've heard for a delay in the process is because of our schedule when we meet. Over the summer, we meet once a month. Students who are up for some type of disciplinary appeal or process, they don't get to us until we meet. So that extends the deadline or the time that they're out of school. Sometimes when they request hearings or for the expulsion process, I mean, they may be getting work, but they're out of their home school environment.
During the summertime?
In the summertime, we meet once a month.
Right.
Let me go ahead and
Their
just
summer
make sure the
school.
dialogue runs through.
Yeah, there's summer school. Okay. And sometimes with hearings, you know, depending on when the board meets or when things happen in people's schedules. So we have seen instances where the board schedule pushes the process and causes further delays. So that's one of the primary things that was being discussed there.
Thank you, Ms. Manning.
Okay.
Shad?
Thank you for that. So are these priorities suggestions or are these directives?
What do
Mr.
you
Manning.
want them to be, Mr. Shad?
I don't know, because the motion says, and it's a little interesting how it's written, the motion says that we are sending this to the administration to develop an action plan that is in accordance with our priorities. So are we sending the football to them and they're going to do something and give it back to us and then we approve it? And if they don't send back what is in line with these priorities, or is it just a suggestion for them to do some work and then potentially we may approve it or not?
Mr. Manning, I'll have you respond, but I just want to jump in on this. My understanding of this and being involved through this is that in an effort to move from committee to and get some action and traction into our district to address the discipline process, that we are handing the football off, as you say, Mr. Shad, to the district so they can review and develop the plan based on with understanding what the board's priorities are. And then they will bring it back to us, and like anything else that is recommended before us, we can pick it apart, we can make the decisions based on what's presented. Mr. Manning, did you have anything you want to add?
I mean, you know, this is exactly the issue we have with committee work, right? We can't get anything done. We go to committees, folks have the opportunity to come to the committees to provide weigh-in, and we get nothing back. And then there's displeasure with the outcome from the committee. So the idea here was to get everybody on the board's idea. So this incorporates everybody who's on this board that sent me something, their thoughts into the process. Give it to the district saying that it's us as a group, not any one of us as an individual, because there's some things on here that may not be priorities for me, but they were a priority for somebody on the board. So I put those together and gave it to the district. Now, when the district comes back with those priorities in mind, you know, we may as a board say, you know what, it is a priority, but that priority, the outcome of the process to meet that priority, we don't like it. And so we're not going to approve that change. So it's really, it is giving the district saying priorities, make a process that meets these priorities. If they can't, they can come back to us and say, well, it's a priority, but we just can't make it work. They might come back and say, we did meet your priorities, and the board says we don't like the way that's done to meet the priorities. But it at least gave them direction for what the board wanted to see as an outcome for it. I mean, if you have a suggestion for a different way to do it, I'm welcome to that. But the idea was to kick it to the district, back to the whole board, so it's no longer part of the committee, and try to find a way that was equitable for all board members, for us all to have an opportunity for our priorities and voice to be heard.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Any other further discussion? Mr. Shad?
I have no problem, Mr. Manning, with the process. I do take issue with you saying that people don't come to the governance committee meeting and then have an issue to say, this is the time for us to talk about recommendations or suggestions or directives in this open session. As you well know, we have to be careful how many folks come to a committee meeting, because then it may become a public setting. We have to give notice and that sort of thing. So of course we don't take action on those, but please don't take what I'm saying now as a reason for my absence or any other persons who didn't come to the governance committee meetings. And I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Ms. Shedd. Mr. Manning.
They are publicized and they are public meetings. Anybody can come to the meeting, and we don't take any action in committee work. But the end result is to try to meet the desire of what I've heard from the board, which is to bring it to the whole board so the whole board has input and can be part of the process. At the end of the day, that's the goal of what I was trying to achieve.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Ms. Mackey.
Yeah, just as a request, I'm not sure that this was on the screen, but just as an effort to provide complete transparency with regard to things that we vote on at these meetings, I'd love to be able to make sure that this is provided on the website or some other place that the public has access to these priorities. No, they're not going to be the final document, I know that, but because it's something that we're discussing in public session, I'd love for the public to be able to have access to it as well.
Okay.
If that's public. Good deal. Well,
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Any further questions or comments on this motion that's on the floor? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. If we could get a hand vote, please. Thank you. Motion passes 7-0. As we approach the 90-minute mark, I just want to thank you guys for hanging in there. This is the time of year where we have quite a few special recognitions, and so, but this is important work that we have to continue to plow through. So next up, we'll move on under new business action request, which is 12.2, approval 10-year facility plan. Dr. Davis.
Honorable board members, on June 2017, I've asked you to approve the updated mission and vision statement for the district. Looking back almost a year, I think we can now realize the significance of that action. At that board meeting in June, we began pursuing the pathways to being the premier school district, period. A few months later, we unveiled the pathways to premier, the district's strategic plan for 2017-2020. Since then, I've stated several times that the plan is the platform that elevates our students, our employees, and our community. It serves as our drumbeat as we march toward pursuing our vision. Tonight's district administration asks you to take another significant action that will help keep us moving down the pathway to premier. Dr. Harry Mallett is going to update you on the 10-year facilities plan that we hope you vote to approve tonight. Many district partners have spent countless hours researching, reviewing data, giving feedback, and even dreaming about what it will take to ensure all our facilities district-wide support our visions to be premier. We must have premier facilities if we strive to ensure success for all partners by preparing them for their futures, dedicate resources toward the ongoing development of the gifts and talents of all partners, maintain a culture and environment that reinforces positive character traits and is joyful and productive for all partners. Make Richland 2 community an all-inclusive and desirable place to live, work, and play, and recruit, develop, and retain top talent, premier employees, students, families, and community members. Dr. Mallett.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. I always enjoy following somebody that articulates my speech that well. I wanted to be as brief as possible. We also want to give you as much detail as we can tonight. But we've been working on this plan for as Dr. Davis said, for 18, 24 months. Tonight I want to just review with you just the timeline we've got, the plan, the summary of the plan, and then ultimately the adoption by you of the plan. We've talked about this before. We began this process by outlining our guiding principles, safe and secure facilities, student-oriented, student-centered, welcoming, supportive to the community, all those things that we've talked about before. We've had multiple meetings on this, but we think this is important to review this one more time. We've gone through several phases as we've developed this. This wasn't anything that we've done quickly, or we've gotten input from all kinds of partners over this time period. We started back in the spring of 16. We had a demographic study. We've had this ongoing facility study that we've updated about every 2 or 3 years over the last 20 years. We had the programming study with the architects that you reviewed and participated in. We had board education sessions. We had enrollment population projections, and we've had facility visits at all of our facilities. We continued this community input session to let the community know what we were thinking, at the same time get their thoughts. We met at all the 5 high schools, had cluster meetings. Some of you, or most of you, if not all of you, participated in some or more of those meetings. We had both the high school, the middle school, and the elementary schools clustered to get input from the parents. We surveyed the parents and community. We had internal and external understanding and feedback sessions, and we've developed a communications plan. As you see, we've done this over, like I said, since spring of 2016, 24 months ago. We've also included cost estimates of all the projects. We reviewed these. We had cost estimates early in the facilities plan. Again, those are updated continuously. We prioritized the needs. We've focused on the areas of focus. And what we finally have this May and bringing to you is the finalization of the adoption of this 10-year facility plan. And again, I remind you that it is a 10-year outlook of what our facility needs are. It's the needs of the districts. We include all these factors and all these components. The facility study, the demographic study. Remember Dave Cowan from the university reviewed the demographic study, programming study again from the architects, feedback from and input from all of our partners. We met extensively with all the principals at all the levels of schools, and then we finally got architectural cost estimates to include in this plan. As you know, the plan's about 100 pages long. There's a page for every school, every site in terms of the needs and the facility needs of each site. That's included in your board docs tonight. This is just the summary of those. Again, we're focusing in a high priority area of security and safety. We have a majority of the elementary schools and most of the middle schools, I think, are needs at securing entrances. So you'll see a large number of sites where we've included security and enhancing the security of the entrances. Some replacement schools. Some of our elementary schools are close to, I believe, 70 years old, and they need to be replaced for a variety of reasons. One of them is one of the reasons is safety and for the students. And maintenance. We've talked about maintenance at our facilities. We have about $800 million worth of facilities. Industry standards recommend anywhere between 2 and 4% of your assets to be invested on a maintenance schedule. That's $16 to $24 million a year. As you know, we spend about $5 million a year for the last 10 years. So we have some pent-up maintenance issues needed in our district. In addition, we have a lot more facilities today than we did 10 years ago, and we're still spending $5 million. I think we do a great job, but there's some pent-up and deferred maintenance issues. Growth, we have elementary school 21 built in, high school number 6, and then additions to Blythewood High School and the house number 5. We have learning spaces. In the programming study, if you remember, there were several suggestions, a lot of sites in terms of enhancing the learning areas in the schools, opening them up for more collaboration, bringing them more into the 2020 era, and enhancing those opportunities for collaboration. A good example is if you just go to Jackson Creek today and look at the design of that school and the collaboration capabilities there, and then go look at one of our 50-year-old elementary schools and you see the difference. Those are some of the issues we've got. And then we have the last area is athletics and arts. Football stadiums, field houses at all the schools, and a performing arts center. That's a very quick summary. I'll be glad to answer any questions. We have several people in the room that I'll pass those questions on if they're hard ones. I'll take the easy ones. And at this time, I'll turn it over to you for any
Thank you, Dr. Miley, and pay no attention to that little time counter that comes up there. I think that's just a subliminal message to keep you rocking and rolling.
I'll be glad to leave.
We've had the opportunity to review. We've had the opportunity to see this plan. I would like to go ahead and throw out there, and entertain a motion, and if seconded, we'll then open it up for discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Shad.
I move that the board adopt the Richland School District 2 10-year facility plan as presented by district administration.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. Motion been made to approve as stated. May I get a second? Second by Dr. Elkins Johnson. Is there any discussion?
I've got a couple of comments, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Mackey.
And just first to give you credit where credit is due, this was a thorough plan, and I appreciate all of the opportunities that board members have had and that community members have had. There have been some community meetings, and I asked specifically if principals and administrators were involved in some of this decision-making process, and it's a plan. It's not implementation yet. It's a plan, but you've got to have a plan before you have action. So I appreciate the intentionality that you all have taken, and not just you, a lot of people were in the room to make these decisions, but I appreciate that it's been comprehensive, more objective than subjective. I appreciate that. I will just say, for the record, and it's start the clock. One of the things I want to make sure that we do is to make sure that we keep our public involved in all the decisions that we make. I know that we've done that. I know that a lot can happen in 10 years. A lot can happen in a year, or 2-3 years. So I want to make sure that our public is involved, that our administrators are involved. And I was going to save this to the end, but for example, in my previous life, I'm on the school board now, we represent, over 28,000 students, but that includes teachers, that includes administrators. As school board members, we are nonpartisan, and that means we represent everyone with no respect to political persuasion or anything of that nature. However, there are people, as parents on the board, as community members, we know more about, certain schools than others because, you pay your PTSA dues and all somewhere. So one of the things that I know that in past decisions that have been made, we all make good decisions for the good of the community. But sometimes in those decisions that we make, there may be unintended consequences. And so we want to make sure, I'm just very impassioned in my former SIC hat on and now, chair of the state SIC, well, for a few more months anyway. I just want to make sure that we're always extremely careful to make sure that unintended consequences, you can't, if it's unintended by virtue of it being unintended, you don't always know what it's going to be. But when we're looking at attendance lines, when we're looking at things in facilities, making sure that we are mindful of equity and parity and things like that. Every school in this district is a premier school. Every school in this district is an academically sound district. It's an academically sound school within the district. So I have no complaints about our academics. I just want to make sure that, and I'll probably get into specifics at my closing board member comments, but I want to make sure that every step of the way we are being as mindful as we possibly can with regard to equity and parity and making sure that facilities are as equitable as they can be for all of our schools, and making sure that we continue to provide opportunities along the way for board member comments, for board member input, for administrators and community. I'm just really impassioned about that. And I think that everyone at this table today and probably people before have worked hard to make sure that, wherever the ship is, not going the right way, we work hard to right it. And I appreciate that, but that's just really big deal with me, the equity and parity piece, and making sure that we have as many people as we can at the table and who are weighing in, not just buying in, who are weighing in on the decisions we make. And I'll get more specifically at the end, but I want to make sure that we continue to do that. I'm pleased with the process thus far, and I hope that we continue in that direction, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Any other questions or comments? Dr. Miley, you've done a great job and your team with the depth of going into this, at a time where, as I mentioned in the beginning, school safety is a big issue, I'd go as far as saying a crisis in our country. I encourage those of you who are here tonight, those who may watch this later, to look through this plan. You'll see how you've done a great job in breaking it down from what we need to do from maintenance to academically to safety and all those type of concerns. And please, we welcome your input and are willing to listen to what you have to say so that we can pass that along for some of the concerns that we have. So thank you so much.
I want to make sure that you understand, I'm the talking head tonight.
I understand that.
The other people that did all the work, so.
Yeah, we know that.
Okay. I just want to remind you.
I'm just kidding.
A lot of people in this room that did all the work.
I know, and there they are. All right, thank you, Dr. Miley. Appreciate that. Any other questions or comments before we move on? Okay, we'll now move on to item 13, old business, no action. We haven't voted. Gosh, it seemed like forgive me. We'll now take it to a vote. Get lost up there, lost in discussion. I forget what we're doing. Oh, yeah. Ms. Sherman, do we need a hand vote? Not yet. Hand vote, please. Okay, motion passes 7-0. And as you can tell, you're corrected very quickly if you go off course just a tad. I appreciate the board team here. All right, thank you, Dr. Miley. We'll now move on to item 13, old business, no action requested. Item 13.1, proposal policy KFB. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm trying to see who's
left.
I can't see. Is Libby? Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the board, we are bringing before you proposal for policy KFB. Ms. Ruth is going to address Dr. Franklin. We'll address any questions regarding the community use district conference facility.
Oh, yeah, that would be good. This is for first reading. So the proposed changes have been marked, and we'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Ruth?
I have a question.
Ms. Agostini.
And none of us can get this policy to pull up, so you're going to have to bear with me. I think it's toward the very end of the policy. And what I believe that I read was if, for example, say a foundation, that supports the school or a school, but is not part of the school, were to have a function, but invited district employees or board members to the event at the conference center, they would be then prohibited, a board member would be prohibited from consuming alcohol.
If they are working in their official capacity at that time. And that's not anything new. That was in the policy before.
So, for example, if we went to, like we had a retirement party last year, none of us would have been considered working in our official capacity when we spoke on, if the chairman spoke on behalf of the board or the superintendent spoke in his position, he would not have been considered working in an official capacity?
That was a private social event that was done through invitation, so it was a closed event. So no, that was people chose to come on their own and participate on their own. They weren't participating as an employee of Richland School District 2.
Let me make sure I'm clear on your comment.
Dr. Elkins Johnson.
If Mr. Plank spoke on behalf of Richland 2 School as the board chair, he would be speaking based on a school board member.
But I think his comments at that one were taped, So again, that was part of the presentation, but the event that was there, I mean, you were there as an individual, not in that capacity. So, I mean, I wasn't involved in the planning, so I don't know exactly the specifics of that event. But again, that's part of the policy that has always been in there. We can certainly look at that, but that is, it's basically, if someone is there working and the district would basically consider that they were on the clock, then that would be when they could not. So they have to be considered on the clock. Yes, ma'am, on the clock.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. I guess for clarity, let me make sure, because you guys may not understand the example. I wasn't even there. I pre-recorded my things and were up on the screen, so I couldn't. So I was there on the screen. So just wanted to be clear on that. And to add to that, I can't see anything on my screen any longer, so I'm going to have to rely on the big screen here. So any other questions or comments regarding the proposed policy KFB?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Manning.
Maybe we could clear that up to
Sure.
exclude board members maybe, because I think as board members, I mean, we're sort of never really
Never
off the clock. I mean, we're technically always on. I mean, I don't know when I take that hat off or put it on a lot of the time. So I just think it might be a little cleaner and easier for board members to be excluded from that. But then, Mr. Chair, I assume that with this being the first reading, though, this will be up for action at our next meeting. Is that
yes,
correct?
sir. That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Plank, would that change be something that?
And forgive me, I got slightly distracted there. So it'll be coming before us for action next time. And Mr. Maine, did you make a proposal shift on that, excluding board members? Is that what I heard you say?
Or just a little more clarity that board members are excluded.
And to be clear, I'm sorry,
Ms. Mackey.
we're talking about page 3, now that I'm back up. Thank you, Mr. Shad, Ms. Agostini. Page 3, second to the last bullet, right? Is that what we're talking about, the last sentence? Yes. Page 3, the second to the last bullet, the last sentence, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, do you want me to read it, or?
I see,
Okay.
I'm just making sure that we're in the right place, because there are several references to.
Yeah, and that it now says district and school personnel, so I don't think that would include the board anyways, because I'm not the legal person on that, but I don't think the board is considered district or school personnel.
It's not necessary.
Okay. But we can work at, if there's a will to kind of make that last statement a little more clear about while present at any such event as an employee of the district, if that needs to be cleared up, we can certainly look at that.
I think we can make I'd like to make a recommendation for a change that we specify district personnel, which could be, teachers, staff, administration, and specifically without excluding, where we don't have to exclude the board.
Okay.
I don't think district personnel should be.
Yes.
To be specific.
We can, if it needs clarification, I will make a recommendation that when we specify district and school personnel, that we simply in parentheses can say who district and school personnel are. Administrators, teachers, classified staff. And that way we don't support staff, we don't have to say excluding the board.
Any questions, any comments on that recommendation?
No comment on that recommendation, but this is the policy that I think Mr. Manning mentioned about adding liquor to the policy. But here, you guys still just say alcohol. So are we going back to try to add that, or are we still keeping the beer and the wine? Because I don't see.
It's in the administrative rule, Dr. Elkins Johnson.
Well, then, in that case, what I would like to do is I would like to invite the public to please come out and voice your opinion and your concerns about having an educational facility to distribute liquor doing after hours, because again, as I stated before, when we're talking about our DARE program, we're encouraging, and during prom season, we're encouraging our young people to resist alcohol and drugs. So I will encourage the public. So if you're watching this, or if you're here tonight, please share with your friends, your family, your colleagues, and let them know that we are considering adding liquor to our conference center when they have unrelated educational events. When we built this institution, and this, for some of you that may not be aware, this facility was actually birthed out of Katie Brochu, one of our former superintendents. And I was on the board at that time, as well as James Manning. And this was not discussed to include the conference center with the use of alcohol. So I want to go back to the good old days where we use educational facilities for what it's meant to be used for, and that's educational matters. So I will beg and plead that if you're listening to this, or if you're here, that you will share with the public and ask them to come out and voice their opinion about how do they feel about that.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins Johnson. Dr. Caution Parker.
One way I think that we can approach this the same way we did with beer and wine, we approached it from let's do this for a year, let's see how this works. And I'm for this change. I'm for the alcohol being served. I wasn't at the very beginning, but I am now. And maybe we could put the same stipulation on this if it passes. We do this for a year and we come back and revisit the policy just to see, because as I see it, if the alcohol can be served, I do believe the income is going to increase, which means that we can put that toward, reducing the cost to certain organizations within the district to be able to use the facility at a lower.
Thank you, Dr. Caution Parker. Dr. Elkins Johnson, then Ms.
Thank you for that, and thank you for your viewpoint with that. But no one has been able to share with us what they're doing with the use of the money that they've had before. So if they can bring something before us with how the money is being used and utilized back into the schools, I would love to hear that. And once again, I don't want to turn the schoolhouse into the clubhouse.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins Johnson. Ms. Mackey.
I just wanted to comment on Dr. Davis's, to concur with Dr. Davis's recommendation that we be specific with regard to that sentence that we in parentheses, specify, and then get clarity for those of us, and that's, Mr. Plank, Dr. Caution Parker, and I, who came on the board. When we talked, I want clarity, period, so that we're not deemed as being irresponsible. When the three of us, I can only speak to the time that I've been on the board, when the three of us came on the board, R2I2 was billed at, there would be classrooms, and then there would be a conference center that would be able to generate revenue and would operate as a conference center and all that entails, and that the two wouldn't be mixed. So if we're talking about this whole building being a school facility and not a conference center, then we need to describe it that way. It needs to be delineated that way. If it indeed is part of a conference center and operates that way, then it should be delineated, and we need to make that abundantly clear so that no one's deemed irresponsible, saying that you serve spirits and, alcohol, libations in a school facility. So we just need to be crystal clear. I can only speak to the time that the three of us have been on the board, and when we got on the board, it was billed as a conference center, and would be an income revenue generating mechanism, and that there would be a portion of it that's, a portion was a library, a portion is a conference center, a portion is going to be used for, district staff members' offices and classrooms. So we just need to be crystal clear as to how we're delineated, and I can only speak for the time that it's been presented to us since I've been on the board.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Ms. Agostini.
I just want to thank Mrs. Mackey for her comments. That has been my question since this has come up over the past few months. What is the purpose of this facility? So I would like an answer to her question. What is the priority of this building? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Agostini. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Shad.
I don't know if I know the answer to this, so that's why I'm asking the question. Does our Richland 2 security guards have arrest power?
No, sir, they do not.
So if someone who is inebriated off of alcohol that's served here and any incidents occur, who would respond?
We would detain them and we would call for the law enforcement, for Richland County Sheriff's Department to come.
And as I understand it, our policy is that we will provide the security. The lessee is going to come here, bring folks in, serve alcohol, sell alcohol. We have, yes, they'll sell alcohol, right? They can provide or sell alcohol on the premises.
Right.
That's what this policy is about to show.
And that's been the case since the policy was in place. Yes,
Right.
sir. Since, I guess, 2 years ago now in the policy.
Right.
Right.
But I think I thought I saw that we're eliminating insurance. There was insurance before, but now we're eliminating insurance. So if we potentially are creating liability with now liquor, if this goes through, we're removing insurance. The district is providing security, not the lessee, but the district is providing security, and then while they cannot arrest, they can detain the attendees if they're doing the wrong thing, perhaps on alcohol, liquored up, and then law enforcement will come in. Is that my understanding? Do I understand that right?
Right. And Dr. Miley can speak to why the insurance part has been taken out.
Okay.
We do provide the security. We charge for the security, so we
Okay.
are providing it, but the tenant, the leasee, pays for the security. The insurance was, again, and I've talked to y'all about this before, about this learning experience. We initially were going to require anybody leasing any facility, any part of the facility, with alcohol or not, to provide us with insurance certificates and proof of insurance. The problem that brought up was there were some small groups that weren't organized enough to have insurance, and we were eliminating them from participating and using any of our facilities. That was a problem because it was eliminating some community organizations that really were welcomed here, but they couldn't provide insurance. Second, even those that could provide insurance, yes, you have $1 million policy, but the problem is evaluating that certificate and evaluating the underwriting insurance company, because it could say $1 million, but it could be with a company that's not worth a dime. And so what we decided was we needed insurance. I made a very strong case for this district to be insured above and beyond our current policies of liability insurance. And we purchased an event insurance policy that covers everybody that walks into this building. And we pay for that, and we hopefully will recoup, thank you, those expenses from people that are leasing the place. So we still have the insurance and are protected by those who are in the building, whether they're consuming alcohol or not. So we just decided that we needed to strike that requirement for the applicant to provide their own insurance policy. But we're still insured more so than we ever were. Even when we moved into this building, we're insured better than we were when we first moved in the building because of the extra insurance policy.
So if an incident occurs on our property,
Yes,
our insurance will cover that person.
I'm sure there are extenuating circumstances if they do something illegal or something like that. But yes, we are covered. I am confident that our facility is covered for any reasonable accident that happens in this building because we've leased it to an applicant who's having an event here.
But we've leased it to an applicant who no longer is required to provide their own insurance. An attendee consumes their alcoholic beverages, possibly goes overboard, and so they hadn't done anything illegal by doing that, but then they trip and fall on our property, and we are exposed.
Well, that's why we have the insurance. Yes, sir. Again, in the best world would be able to have that organization provide that insurance policy. The problem is that created problems with implementing and having that entity provide us with a insurance policy that was worth having. And that was my concern, as though they produce a document, they say they're covered, we say they're covered, and then they aren't. And we're not covered as well.
Well, we know, Dr. Miley, this is the purpose of this is to make sure that we're competitive with other facilities that are comparable to us.
Yes, sir.
We believe that some of us believe that we are losing business because there are more attractive facilities that allow for alcohol. We know that's what this is about. Do we know if those competitors are doing the same thing that we're doing and really absolving these lessees from responsibility by not requiring them to have insurance? And the reason I ask that is because any festivals that I know where folks rent out, they got to have that insurance. And if they can't afford the premium for the insurance, then they just have to go somewhere else. But it's to protect the landholder, which is us.
And we had that discussion. Again, we went back to if there are community groups that want to use the facility, we didn't want to say, oh, your organization of 30 people who want to have a meeting here, you don't have an insurance policy, go somewhere else. We didn't want to be in that position. So that's why we went ahead and got this insurance. I think we're still going to be good stewards as far as our security here, overseeing the applicants during the activities upstairs. So I understand the concern, but I feel like we are adequately covered. The expense does not, in my opinion, put our rental rates beyond what they should be competitively. So again, we'll be glad to review that again, but that was the driver there, was the requirement to have that insurance policy eliminated some of the community groups that we felt would benefit from this facility.
Okay, and lastly,
And Mr. Chapman, we do look at other event venues, and what we do has lined up to be comparable to what they ask of their people. Does that answers part of that question? Was do other venues? Yes, we had a lot of, when we started this, one of the things was we saw, and then we got on a director, we saw that we had a lot of extra steps and a lot of things that other venues that have conference center space didn't have, and that was causing issues with bringing clients in to use the upstairs space. So we are trying to make sure that we are comparable. We don't want to be so easy and so low price that we aren't, we undercut the, private businesses in the community, but we need to be able to so that they don't just walk away because they look at what we have and say, oh, I'm not going to do that, I'll go over here and I don't have to do that.
Okay, well, two questions, but it's connected. No events are going to occur during the regular school hours, but have there been occasions where students have been here after hours, such as 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, getting tutoring or doing something else in this facility, which can be at a time that an event may start where alcohol will be there?
The lobby is open for individual use. So I know that we haven't had a lot of events with alcohol served, but I know the library has had a few, and we have had a couple. One most recently started about 5 o'clock. So yes, it was possible that someone was downstairs or in the library. What we do is we make sure that with this, that's why we determine how much security, because we will have people down here and then security up there, so that there is to cut down on any possible mixing. And we keep, those groups that rent it are responsible for making sure that only the people that are in their event are served. And so that's why the security is in place, so that when we have a private event upstairs, it is closed. You can't, someone who's down here in the lobby can't go up there. Even when there's not an event, you can't go, our security guards stop you. You don't just go to walk around in the conference center upstairs.
Okay, and do we ever have any school activities on the weekends?
If we do, one thing that we do is we don't mix an event. So if an event is and let's say the Learning Center is having a camp or something, it's rare, but it does happen, especially during the summer. We would not hold and allow an event to happen with alcohol. So we have a joint calendar, and we can see what's going on at the Learning Center, and we're very careful to make sure that those two events don't cross over. So and we have multiple eyes looking at it. Director, all events are approved by at least 3 people, I believe.
So then that tells me that if a private lessee schedules an event on a weekend, but then someone on behalf of the school district wants to have something, they get kicked because that person, there's already a contract with the lessee.
The school event?
If they want to have a school event, but the private event perhaps with alcohol, is already scheduled, they don't get priority. It's first come, first served.
No, actually, we give our district priority. We have bumped other events to have a school event or a district event if we've needed to. But there has never been an issue where that has come up on any, and we work very closely with the different parties to find a solution. You know, we're not going to immediately kick one or the other out. We're going to work to find the solution. Maybe adjust hours. Typically, a school event at night is extremely rare here. The only most ones we've had have been the prom. And again, that takes up this whole facility, so you're not going to be able to have an event here at that time. So we're very careful, and we know that learning opportunity is priority, and we're going to work to protect that time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shad. Dr. Davis.
I just didn't want to give the false impression that if there was a private event that was already booked and has been booked for an extended period of time, that if a school comes in and requests
at the last minute,
that we would bump that private event for the school last minute request. So I didn't want to give the perception, because the way that was stated, it sounds like if an event was already requested, that at any time a school could come in and say, well, we want this venue at this day and this time, and then that person that we've already leased with now has to adjust their schedule. We don't do that.
No, but
Okay.
what we typically, these kind of events, if there's going to be a school event here, they have scheduled it well in advance. And so, again, we just work very closely to make sure that we don't have, we get questions from Jackie on a pretty regular basis. I have this, but somebody has asked about this. What can we do to make it work? So we're very, very thorough in ensuring that part of the conference center doesn't negatively impact our learning center. And as I said, we've been in here and we have not had any issues at this time, and we certainly would work through them if we did.
Dr. Elkins Johnson.
Just a few questions. First, a statement. I know that we say we are the premier school district, period. I hope we remain that way after getting liquored up when our guests come. The question is, how are we going to determine who can rent the facility? If there's a 21-year-old drug dealer who is just ready to throw down on his 21st birthday, and they come and they fill out the application, how are we going to determine whether or not they can get the facility or not get the facility?
They have to apply through our application process online, which is very thorough. They would have to pay the full rate.
Okay.
And they would be responsible for adhering to the rules. And if they don't, then they would be turned down.
But how are they turned down when they meet all the requirements? Let's say you're asking for $5,000. They have the money. They're paying it. They're of age. So how can we determine?
We would control what goes on in the building. So we don't delve into a person's background, but if they're a community member and they meet our requirements, then they have an event that can be maintained in this facility, then we certainly would want to do that. If there are any concerns that we would not be able to maintain the level of decorum at this facility, we have a right to deny it. And if we got information that indicated the event was not what it was represented to be, then we would have the right to deny that.
But how can we do that when we're going off of hearsay? So just because you hear that my party might be lit, now you're going to tell me, I've heard that you're 21 and your party's going to be lit, so we're going to deny your application. Isn't that
I think we would do a thorough job of investigating it, not just to go on hearsay. And typically, we can look at all different types of records, but we would investigate it thoroughly, just like we do everything else when we make a decision. And we would determine what's in the best interest of the district. If someone's intent on doing wrong, they're going to do wrong. We're just going to make sure we have the parameters in place to protect the integrity of our district. Okay. And we have many established organizations that have reached out to us. In fact, we got a letter this week from PMI of the Midlands chapter, who their leadership has indicated wanting to come here. They have high quality events, networking events that are typically include refreshments, including alcohol. And they had one great event here, and they have expressed us that they'd love to have more events here, but they have had to move events to other venues because they can't have what they typically have. And they have connections with others. So there is a lot of well-meaning great groups that could benefit from this ability to do this.
Okay, my next question is, in a bar, normally the bartender has to keep an eye on how many drinks he's serving a customer. How are we going to determine who's going to be the watch eye at these events to make sure that someone is not consuming more than they probably should have?
That's the responsibility of the server, of the company that is paid to come and licensed to serve alcohol. We don't allow someone who's not licensed to serve alcohol. So again, it goes back to being covered, because we also use licensed caterers who are pre-approved by the district, then they have some of the responsibility. And it's like going to any other place that has an outside caterer, State Museum, University of South Carolina, where they use outside caterers. They have that responsibility. We have extra eyes as well to look at. Our security will say, you know what, I think that person might be overserved, and they're going to alert the caterer and the bartender so that they can do that. So it again works in tandem, but we do not allow someone to just walk off the street and serve alcohol. They have to work through our approved caterers who have to be licensed to serve alcohol.
Okay, that's all the questions I have for now. But again, I'll make my plea to those of you who are out there or those who are watching, please get on social media. And I'm begging and pleading that you guys come here and give us your input on allowing this facility, which is an educational facility, to serve liquor. Thank you.
Mr. Manning, before I go there, I just wanted to make it clear, because we've had a long discussion here. Regardless of one's personal preference for alcohol, the reality is right now that, and keep in mind, we as a district don't serve alcohol. I want to make sure that's clear. To me, and I mean all due respect to the rest of my board team here, is that we're using the words conference. We have a fee structure. We charge revenue. We serve alcohol currently. To me, it is a conference center designed to be a revenue-based center. And so I just want to make sure it's clear to people, because it can get a little convoluted when we're talking. We serve alcohol currently. It's limited to, right? It's limited to beer and wine. You can consume excess in beer and wine. What we've asked and what's before us is that we expand this policy to include liquor, so that may capture more of the community who is interested in that. It is up to the individuals, the servers, as you described, to have the personal responsibility to be able to manage themselves and us manage the district through, or manage the actual event through the rules and regulations that we have in place. And so we've gone through great lengths to make sure that the district itself that the conference center is isolated, and this isn't a thing where we're blending in students. So I just want to make sure that's clear, that to me, at the end of the day, if this is about alcohol, then you either serve it or you don't. I don't understand why we're asking questions as though we don't serve alcohol. And frankly, like I said last board, whether you drink 10 beers or you have 10 shots of vodka, you're still going to be drunk. So to me, it's about, do we, if we bring this to our final reading with and let the board decide through a vote at that time. Mr. Manning? Okay, Ms. Mackey.
Point of clarification, regardless of what side of the aisle you are on with regard to this issue, just wanted to make sure, I know we're talking about what we do. We don't serve alcohol. The Richland, regardless of how you feel, that's your personal preference. I'm not casting judgment or dispersions on anyone. We don't serve alcohol. People who use this conference center can have the choice to have that service or not. So I want to make sure that when people are watching this video, they're not thinking that we Richland 2 School District is serving alcohol. I don't. That's all.
Yeah, I think we've made that perfectly clear. Any other questions or comments from the board regarding the proposal KFB?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Shedd.
the only thing, just to piggyback off what you said, is that, yes, while we allow certain alcohol in our facility and have been since it opened, I imagine, the difference is what we found is that apparently we've lost potential revenue because we have been selective in the type of alcohol. So that tells me that the marketplace wants this, and this policy is to allow it. So it's not necessarily because from what I've heard, no one has actually proposed that we just remove alcohol totally. It's just to step it up and expand it even more, really for just the commercial gain that we're going to receive.
That's right. Thank you.
In that case, I would love to make a motion that alcohol is
Dr.
removed
Elkins-Johnson.
from the policy.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins-Johnson. Any other questions come from Mr. Manning?
Mr. Chair, I find it interesting. I think I've seen just about every board member here at an Urban League dinner or at a state Teacher of the Year function where we've had students invited to those functions where there is alcohol, liquor, beer, and wine served. And we have applauded, every one of our board members has applauded the students' performance at those functions and never questioned the fact that they were around alcohol. And all of a sudden now it's an issue. So we know it's being done in other places. I appreciate the questions about the protections. It sounds like y'all have done a great job of putting those in place, and I look forward to the vote as recommended for action at the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Manning.
Mr. Chair, I'd like
Dr.
to make a
Elkins-Johnson.
comment. I want to comment on what Mr. Manning just stated. I don't recall being at an event with alcohol being served in one of our school facilities, so please help me. Yeah, please clarify that for me, because I don't recall being there.
Thank you, Dr.
And if I
Elkins-Johnson.
was, it was not at R2I2 or school facility, so please clarify that.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins-Johnson. Mr. Manning, would you like to respond?
I don't think there's any need. We'll just go all night on this.
Thank you, Mr.
You're right,
Manning.
there is no need because
Dr.
that's
Elkins-Johnson.
false information that he just shared.
Any other questions, comments on this subject? Thank you very much. Appreciate your report. Now move on to item 14, new business, no action requested. This is a report, policy GBEA, conflict of interest, staff ethics. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, we are just presenting to you a report on the policy GBEA, conflict of interest, and staff ethics as it is currently stated.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. At the request of the board, the summary of the policy will be provided. The purpose of GBEA, Conflicts of Interest Staff Ethics, is to establish the basic structure for ethical conduct and avoidance of conflicts of interest on the part of the district staff. Staff members will not engage in any activity that conflicts or raise reasonable question of conflict with their responsibility in the district. South Carolina Code, Section 813-750 of the South Carolina Ethics Act provides that no board member or public employee may cause employment, appointment, promotion, transfer, or advancement of a family member to a position in the district. No board member or public employee may participate in any action related to the discipline of the board member or public employee's family member. No family member of a board member will be hired by the district. Additionally, no family member of the superintendent or the district office staff at director level or above will be hired by the district. Prohibits the continued employment of an employee whose family member is elected to the board or appointment as superintendent will be separated by the end of the fiscal year in which the board member is elected or superintendent is appointed. The termination rights apply to all district employees with the exception of certified employees with continuing contracts whose employment rights are defined in South Carolina Code Section 5925-410. A board member or superintendent will identify in writing the names of all family members employed by the district. Family members of principals, teachers, or other staff members will not be assigned to the same office, staff, or school. A public school employee is under the jurisdiction of the ethical conduct of public officials and employee, which is included in Section 813-700, the South Carolina Code of Laws, and is subject to the rules of conduct of the statute. Included in your board packet was the policy GBEA, and this is the report submitted.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Appreciate that. Any questions or comments on this particular?
Mr. Chair.
Or yes, Mr. Manning.
At my own peril here. I feel like there's a conflict in our, or an inequity, I should say, in our policy. So, and by the way, this has absolutely no bearing on me personally whatsoever, so I don't want anybody to confuse that. But if we have somebody elected to our board who is a teacher, essentially, then their family member could continue to serve in the district, correct?
That is correct.
Continue, not be hired, but continue if that was the
That
case.
is correct, based on the South Carolina Code.
If I'm elected as a board member, and if I had a family member who, say, was on food service staff somewhere, or an assistant, they would have to be let go based off of that policy.
Based on the current policy.
Based off the current
Based
policy.
on the current policy,
So
yes, sir.
we treat different sets of staff differently. To me, it just seems like that's not equitable, and I would like to have us look at the possibility. I'm not saying do it, I'm saying look at the possibility of, could we make that more aligned in the favor of what the policy is for certified staff now? So could we not have to let somebody go who is in another part of our district other than a teacher if a board member were elected with that family member in place, if that makes sense?
If that's the pleasure of the board.
Yeah, I mean, if I put it out there, I think it seems like the equitable thing to consider.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Dr. Elkins Johnson.
And I'll like to agree with Mr. Manning on that, because I think when we're looking at directors or principals, if someone is moved to our district and that person is a principal and their wife wants to come, or someone was elected to a school board and an educator, I would love to allow them to be able to work in the same district. If you're a director, why can't your wife come here and be a teacher or a teacher assistant or a parent educator? So I would love to see us go back and revise that policy.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins Johnson. Any other questions or comments? Dr. Caution Parker.
That's the way it used to be. And this policy was changed in 2006 because of some issues here on the board. But that's the way it used to be. Everybody's treated equally, which I think is the fair thing to do and the right thing to do.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins Johnson. Any other questions or comments?
I think it's
Ms. Mackey.
no action at this time. I just concur. My colleagues,
Okay.
I concur.
Any other questions? I would agree with my colleagues on that. We have a great public of people who are interested in serving in this district, and we're also a large employer in this district, and it'd be a shame for someone who would want to run for school board, be elected, and then but at the peril of another income earner in the household. So I concur with that. Well, so it's, from what I can gather, that would be the board's will that you take a look at that and come back with a recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, next up, thank you, Ms. Williams. Thank you. We'll move on to 14.2, which is update on the magnet school recognition. Dr. Davis.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we have before you Ms. Dawn Whitley, who will share with us an update on the magnet schools here in the Richland School District 2. Ms. Whitley.
Ms. Whitley, if you push the, yes, thank you.
16 elementary, 12 middle, and 12 high school magnets, which is a lot. And we're frequently asked how they're doing. We can tell you, not too shabby. A couple of years ago, the school board asked us which programs were working, and we started developing the criteria for evaluation. It was a lot more difficult than we expected it to be, because how do you determine if a magnet's working? We know it's more than grades, it's more than test scores, but what other criteria do you use? And while we were scratching our heads and wringing our hands, it was as if the clouds parted and the light came directly from Magnet Schools of America. They were starting a magnet certification process. We read the national standards for excellence that were serving as a certification criteria and thought, this is perfect. The national standards of excellence, which are organized into these 5 pillars, offered the more comprehensive assessment we are looking for. And then we found a group of lead teachers and principals who were brave enough to become part of Cohort 1 and meet the challenge of becoming nationally certified. But with this, not only would our magnets need to meet the tough standards, but the district as a whole would be assessed to determine the quality of support for our magnets. Along with the school and program-based data, we began gathering documents, pulling communications and meetings and minutes, reports, and budgets from every department in the district. This process has been compared to advanced ed or to climbing Mount Everest in water skis. But after Cohort 1 showed that it could be done, then Cohort 2 began their journey. At this point, we have 11 magnets which are nationally certified. Now there's only 93 in the U.S. and 11 of them are right here in Richland too. And just when we thought Dr. Davis's smile couldn't get any bigger, we find out we have schools who have exceeded the national standards and are named demonstration schools. If I tried to use a college graduation analogy to describe the difference between a certified school and a demonstration school, a nationally certified school would be the equivalent of graduating summa cum laude, where a demonstration school would be the equivalent of graduating magna cum laude. Both are incredibly high honors that take a lot of effort. And as if it couldn't get any better, we get more good news. Richland 2 programs received 4 National Merit Awards. The Award of Distinction was given to the Forest Lake NASA Explorer School, and in a separate award category for new and emerging programs, the Elementary Learning Collaborative, or ELC, at Forest Lake was bestowed the Award of Distinction. Both Richland Northeast and Spring Valley programs earned MSA's highest merit award, the Award of Excellence. All of our awardees were recognized at a national conference, and they're here now to be recognized by our school board for their achievements. Ms. Mackey, can I get you to help me with awards or certificates? Ms. Mackey, can I get you to help me with certificates? And hand them? Oh, okay. All right. That's okay. Or you gonna call them? Yeah. Okay. Thought it was your turn tonight. Our first school to be recognized is the Academy of Civic Engagement at Lonnie B. Nelson. Karen Beeman Principal, Don Smith. And the ACE program exceeded standards to become a demonstration school, one of the three of the 5 that were named this year. And Tara's here too, good, yay. Next, we have the Center for Knowledge and Center for Knowledge North. Jolene can't be with us tonight. She's at a retirement party, but Jessica Agee, lead teacher and soon-to-be director of our 2 schools, is here to accept the certificates. And again, they exceeded the standards and were named a demonstration school. Next, we have the Learning Collaborative, TLC, at Dent Middle School, with Tamala Ashford and Mark Turner, lead teacher. Yes, absolutely. 2 academies at Dent Middle School also became nationally certified. You've got Martha Walker, here as lead teacher of 2 academies, and also the Fine Arts Media Enrichment, FAME, was certified as well, and Catherine Campbell, lead teacher for FAME, is here. Next, we have the ink magnet at Kelly Mill Middle School. Ink program's application exceeded standards, and they were named as a national demonstration school. Congratulations. Thank you. Then we have our Merit Award winners. We have the Discovery and Explorations programs at Spring Valley High School, and they were awarded the School of Excellence Award. Michelle is actually with students tonight as they're doing presentations, so she couldn't join us, but luckily Mr. Timoni could be here. So congratulations. And next we have the Richland Northeast Baccalaureate World School, and Denise is here tonight along with Sonja Merriweather Hawkins, our lead teacher. And again, this is the highest award given by the Magnet Schools of America, the School of Excellence. So we're very proud of. And next, the Forest Lake NASA Explorer School was awarded the School of Distinction, and we have Miranda Hayward here to accept. Both our lead teacher and principal were tied up tonight. Absolutely. Yeah. And Miranda, just stay put for a second, because we're also announced that the Elementary Learning Collaborative, ELC, their newest program, was also given the award of distinction, but in another category, the new and emerging programs. So we expect great things. And that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Ms. Whitley, for your presentation, and thank you to all of you who have stayed through this whole meeting. We appreciate your accomplishments. I'll open up to the board. Any questions, comments? Thank you so very much. Dr. Elkin? Oh, okay. All right, we'll now move on to item 15.1, agenda items for the June 12th, 2018 regularly scheduled board meeting. Dr. Davis?
Mr. Chair, if you would permit me 1 second, I want to make sure I have the appropriate document pulled up, because mine says something different. Yeah.
No, I just pulled it up from the brand new thing. But this is the executive one.
All right. On the June 12th, 2018 future agenda items, we have listed litigation summary, student expulsions and appeals, student readmission requests, adult ed requests, special recognitions. We will have a legislative update. We'll have our approval of policy KFB, community use of district conference facility, proposals for policy DD, which is our funding proposals, grants and special projects, DDA, federal fiscal compliance. We'll also have our South Carolina School Board Association Region 8 Director nomination, along with a report on summer programs and a report on the third quarter financial report.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Open up to the board for any additional or future agenda items, or Mr. Manning.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to, we heard the parents talk about the dual language immersion program. I think it's been in place long enough that I'd like to have an update to the board on that program.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Shad.
With regard to public participation, I know that, well, what I'd like to see is what the policy is or the state law with regard to participants giving publicly from the microphone their address. I know they have to write it down outside But for one, it seems redundant to do both, but if they've already written it down, the necessity in them having to say it publicly from the microphone and being broadcast.
Can I speak to that?
Ms. Mackey.
You're asking about law. I'd love to see the law, but I've been at that podium a lot as a parent, and I just never shared my address because I didn't want to. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So I don't know what the, mandate or policy
certainly
says that, but I just didn't because I didn't feel comfortable doing that.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey.
To your point.
Yeah, we can certainly look into it. The nature behind it has been has been the practice that's been in place. In addition, that we generally reserve the public participation to those who are residents of the district. So it's an opportunity to do that, and two, it's to put it officially on the record for that. But we can certainly, Dr. Davis, take a look at that unless there's comment now.
No, I'm
Okay.
just letting Marshall in. No.
Okay, good. So we'll make sure, and if that's something we need to correct or change, we can certainly do so. It's one fewer thing we have to say. All right. If any other agenda items for future board meetings? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 16.1, public participation number 2. No one has signed up, but if you'd like to do so, address the board, please do so now. All right, seeing no one, we'll move on to our board and superintendent comments, 17.1. I'll start with my right with Ms. Agostini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to just say a special thank you to our public speakers, Mrs. Burnell and Mrs. Spratt, who came out today to share their concerns, but also showed their commitment and their passion for the success of the DLI program. Also, congratulations to all of our students for the recognitions that they received tonight. And then just a very special thank you to my friends, Michael and Lauren Banks, for coming out and sharing their story and inspiring us with their love, faith, and perseverance.
Thank you, Ms. Agostini. Mr. Shad. Thank you, Mr. Shad. Dr. Caution Parker.
Just want to say thank you, Ms. Agostini. I think this is about the third time in a row we've had a board member thanking you for the inspirational moments, because they've just been very, very enlightening, very motivating. And we've talked a lot tonight, so I'm not going to say anything else except thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Caution Parker. Dr. Elkins Johnson.
Just good night to everyone and drive safely home.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins Johnson. Ms. Mackey.
As always, for the people who have to be here, thank you. For those that chose to be here, bless you. The hours late, I had lots of things to say tonight, but the hours late, and just in respect of your time, I will make my comments this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Mr. Manning.
I far surpassed my quota already. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. We'll now move on to Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I do have quite a bit of things I wanted to share. But in lieu of time, I'm going to just read off this one sheet really quickly. This month, we recognized the 2017-2018 Teacher of the Year, and during that ceremony, Sue Weems of Blythewood High School was named our district Teacher of the Year for the 2018-2019 school year, and she will compete for the State Teacher of the Year competition. In addition, a ceremony was held recently for our 154 junior scholars. This group of 8th graders performed at the academic top 2% of South Carolina 8th graders. The keynote speaker for the event was a 2014 Richland Northeast High School and Princeton University graduate, Michael Kratsios, the son of our very own Dr. Kratsios. As you may know, there are quite a few celebrations taking place in the coming weeks. The district art celebration, the recognition of our first group of premier scholars, and the wellness celebration are all on tap. Additionally, commencement ceremonies will be held at the Colonial Life Arena on Monday, June 4th and Tuesday, June 5th. For nearly 2,000 seniors are preparing to receive their diplomas. Students at the Charter High School and W.R. Rogers Adult Ed Continuing and Technology Education Center will graduate on Thursday, June 7th, and the special education graduation will be held at R2I2 next Thursday on May the 31st. Choice 2 remains open through June 1st. The program offers parents and students residing in Richland 2 a second opportunity to request permission to attend a school other than their residentially assigned school. Please check our website for information regarding Choice 2. And as Mr. Shad also shared, I hope everyone has a safe Memorial Holiday weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. We genuinely appreciate you guys. Item number 18, executive session number 2. We have got all our business finished in executive session number 1. And so now we'll move on to 19.1. If anyone objects, if no objection, we are now adjourned. Thank you.